Hi, I'm Gene Cavassis. I'm going to show you how to build this simple knife kit that is inexpensive and a lot of fun to build and could even make a great gift. So stay tuned. I got this kit from Amazon and it's from a company called Cisco Supplies, and it's a 5.5-inch Bowie knife. As you can tell, it's a stainless steel blade. The blade is finished, the brass finger guard is finished, but the back handle is still in rough, and you'll have to build your own handles, or what is called scales. I also ordered a couple packages of pin stock. Now this is 3mm stock, and I'll use on this particular knife, but they also sell it in 1/4 inch, which I got a large enough supply because I'm hoping I may build several of them. This particular knife has 2 holes pre-drilled in it for pin stock, but I'm going to have to enlarge the holes to fit that. I also picked up a piece of 1/4 inch thick red oak. I love the look of red oak, and it should work just fine. I think it was under $2 for that piece. So let's get started. I'm going to start by masking out the blade. Now you could use painter's tape or anything you want. I'm going to use gaffer's tape because it's low tack, it's got a cloth to it, and I think it'll help protect that blade and protect your fingers while you're building it as well. So once you have that all taped on and secured, you can start looking at how you're going to build the knife. Using the oak, I'm going to set it up, and you're going to have to cut a bit of an angle. So let me grab a pencil. I'm going to mark this off, and then we'll cut both of the scales for each side. Once I have my angle established, I took it to the chop saw. And always remember, please use safety glasses and ear protection as well on a project like this. After I've set my angle, I go ahead and get the scales cut. And I wanted to leave a little access on the end. So now the 2 scales are pre-cut, but now I'm looking, I realize here that on the finger guard, I'm going to have to, before I even install the handles on there, I'm going to need to do some trim or sanding, because once those are on, I'm not going to be able to get that tight in there. So I'm going to need to come in and pre-mark these and make sure I do both sides. And now I'll put the 2 together and be able to trim and sand those 2 sections down or on the scales so that I know that that's going to be comfortably fitting in there. Now I'm going to tape the 2 scales together. Ideally, what would work great for doing this is 2-sided tape, but I didn't have any, so I'm going to use the tape I have. Now, keeping your fingers clear. Now, if you don't have a belt sander, don't worry about it. You could use a file. There's a lot of different ways that you could start sanding this down. You know, like say, you could put it into a vise and use a rasp and a file and start trimming this down. I have a small belt sander, and it works great for this. Now I'm going to take and trace the basic shape of the scale, or of the handle of the knife, and put the 2 pieces together. Did I mention that double stick tape would be ideal for this project? Once you have the 2 secured, for me, it's going to take a little longer because I've got to use just regular masking tape. So now to the bandsaw, and we cut out the basic shape. Now don't get right to the edge. You want to leave a little bit of room around it. So I cut close, but not directly on. Double check, and it looks like it's going to make a nice little steel and oak sandwich. Now here's my pen stock, and I will match that up to the right size steel drill bit. And then drill right through the steel handle into the scale. Now I've taped that down again, and then using the pen stock, I'm going to hold that into place to drill my second hole. And then adding some more tape around this to hold it. Did I mention that double stick tape would be ideal for this? I'm going to drill through the body, through the steel handle, and all the way through the scale on the back side of this. Also, this has a 1/4 inch hole at the end of the steel handle, and so on that I'm going to pre-drill that as well. Now this is the first time I've built a knife, so if you guys have got better ideas or I'm doing something wrong with this, please put it in the comment section down below. Let me know. This is part of the fun, though, is learning as you go to build something like this. Now this is where you're going to take a little bit of, I'm going to use acetone, but you could use lacquer thinner, and to wipe any oils or grime off of the steel before you glue the scales down. Now we're going to use a 2-part epoxy, and I picked up a larger 2-bottle kit, but you can also buy, like, for $5 a small kit. But I plan on using this for several projects. The epoxy is a 1-to-1 or 2 equal amounts, and then just using a stir stick, I smeared it up, stirred it up, made sure I got it well mixed up, and then I'm going to apply it first to the steel on the knife. I believe they call this the tang, but I'm not sure. And once I've got that evenly applied to it, and it looks like it didn't quite mix up enough, so I'm going to mix up another equal batch and of the epoxy, and this is called 5-minute epoxy. So once it's mixed up, you've got 5 minutes before it starts to set. So you're going to need to work fairly quickly, but just make sure you get everything covered and ready to go. And don't worry about applying too much. You're going to let it squeeze out. I also, even with some of the leftover, I coated the pen stock, and I actually took a pair of side cutters and literally just cut that brass in half. It's that soft and easy to cut. Now this is one of the ones I was a little concerned about. The pen stock, I'm able to slide into the holes. It's tight, but I've seen videos where they literally were driving it down into the knife. So here it worked. It slid on just fine, and I felt like it was a good fit, but you know, I could be wrong with this. So if somebody knows, give me a shout. Let me know. So now I'm going to fit both scales onto the knife handle itself. Once those are on, I'm going to use just some spring clamps and put several of them on the knife. Sorry about moving that out of camera. Okay, I let that sit for 24 hours, and now I'm going to come back and take all the clamps off, and let's see what we got here. Feels good. It's glued up well. It's holding. So I just need to cut these pen stock off. I'm going to use just a hacksaw and trim them off. And there's actually enough to build another knife with just that single piece of pen stock. Going back to the belt sander, I'm going to smooth the pen stock off even with the handle, and then once that's done, I'm going to start shaping in the blade itself. I'll go to the disc sander part, and I'm going to start moving this around and getting it as close to the steel as possible, making it a tight, smooth fit. You don't want to spend a lot of time trying to grind down. All you're doing is moving that wood, and oak is hard wood, but you want to move that down smooth to the steel itself. On the inside of that, I'm going to have to go back to the belt sander and just kind of work that up and down on the end. Once again, you could do this same thing using a wood rasp and then files to bring it down, and it would just take a little longer, but if you have something like this, or even just a regular belt sander, you could turn that upside down and do it as well. But this worked really well, and was able to get 90% of all the smoothing and shaping that I could with this. Now, anything I couldn't quite reach that was getting close to the blade or to the thumb handle on that, I came back and used a rasp and then a files to bring that material down. But you could actually smooth it down that way too. Now, going from 100 grit sandpaper and then moving to 120 and going through and sanding all this. And this is going to take some patience, but this is the best way to make it as smooth and beautiful of a handle. Now I'm moving to 220. And you could even go into higher grits if you want. I also came back and drilled out that 1/4-inch hole. It was already drilled, but I figured there was probably some epoxy down in there, and I wanted to make sure it was clear. I used Minwax wood finish, and I used a Shenandoah red on this to really bring out the grains in that red oak. And I really love the color that it did bring out, and it gave it kind of a nice, rich glow to it. So after applying this, I'm going to set it to the side and let it dry overnight. Now that it's dried, we're going to be ready to go to the next step, and that's get all the tape off the body of the knife. Now you may have some tape residue. Once again, I'm going to use the acetone and just clean off the blade, but be careful not to get it on the freshly stained oak. Once that's done, I'm going to use a product called True Oil. This is a gun stock finish, and I feel like it'll be perfect for the blade handle on this. And all it takes is a few drops directly on your wood, and then I prefer to just use my fingers and rub the oil directly down onto the wood. Now this oil dries to a hard, glassy, clear finish. I really like this stuff, and you can put as many coats as you want to really build it up. On this one, I'm only going to apply one coat because I kind of want it to be a soft satin finish. So once that's done, I'm going to set it aside and let it dry overnight. Now that it's dried overnight, I'm really happy with how this knife is looking. The handle's still got a little more sheen to it than I like. So I'm going to take a Scotch pad and just lightly scuff up the surface of this and help to bring it down to a more matte finish. I got to tell you, this is a fun project. It's about a 3-day project, not in time, but just allowing the epoxy to dry over for one night, and then letting the stain dry one night, and then letting the True Oil dry one night. Your finishes could be different, but I love the way this turned out. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you'll try building one of these. This was a lot of fun to build. If you have any questions, comments, or even corrections, because like I said, this is the first time I've actually built a knife kit, please let me know. If you got ideas, you want me to try something else, give me a shout out. So I'll put a link below to all the materials and supplies on this project. And until next time, thanks again.